If you are building an AI-powered product, so sooner or later you ask yourself one question. So how much does each customer actually cost me? Not how much did they pay OpenAI this month, but specifically this user over these 3 days, how much did they burn in tokens, images, and videos, or whatever you're creating out there, right? So I built a system that calculates this automatically without spending a single cent on external services. Everything runs on my own server. Today, I'll show you exactly how it works, and so you can build the same thing for yourself. Here is the pain point. So I have a product that generates content using AI. Inside it are dozens of automations. One writes text, another generates ideas, the third one creates images, fourth one produces videos. And each automation calls some model. Maybe it's Claude, maybe it's GPT, maybe an image generator, maybe a video API. So the problem is that every model is priced differently and measured differently. So for example, text models charge for tokens, separately for input and for output. Images are charged per image and the price depends on size and quality. Videos are often charged per clip or per second. So at the end of the month, you just receive a single bill from the provider. So at the end of the month, you receive a single bill from the provider, but you have no idea which customer consumed what. So I needed visibility into costs per user and per day. So broken down like this much for text, this much for images, this much for video. I had two approaches. So the first idea that came to my mind was simple. So let's just add a counter to every automation. So once I generate an image, just add one record to the database. It sounds simple, but it's a trap. First, you're modifying production workflows. So if you can see here, they are already pretty complicated. So imagine adding here and there in different agents, just one more counter. So it's not that easy. So one mistake, you break something and nothing works. You don't want this. So second of all, I have a lot of workflows like this. So inside my project, there are 55 workflows that are interconnected, and imagine I have to place this counter to almost each of them, right? At least to the ones that are using agents somehow. But the main problem is that later you change the logic and forget to update one location. So now there is an inconsistency, and you don't want this as well. So the last thing is the workflow can simply crash after the generation, but before the counter runs. So you miss the cost completely. Once again, inconsistencies, you don't want this. So I took different approach. Let me show you. I built a separate collector. So it's an independent automation that runs on its own every 10 minutes. So it goes through the execution logs, where the system already records everything that happened anyway. So it reads what was done and how many tokens were consumed, how many images were generated, and stores them in its own dedicated database. So the biggest advantage is that I never touch production workflow. They continue working exactly as before. So if tomorrow I decide to change the counting logic, I update it in one place and it has zero impact on the product itself. The one downside is latency. So data doesn't appear instantly. There is 10 minutes delay. But for cost tracking, that's completely acceptable, right? Let me quickly guide you through it. So first, we have a schedule here. Then we got a cursor from the database with the date of the last stoppage and when it was last updated to know which executions we should pull. Then we are getting the list of all executions. Then we filter this list by certain workflows that I'm interested in tracking because I know that they have agents inside. So it's a simple filter. Then I got execution as per each workflow, and then I parse usage from it, and I'm getting them in the format that is readable and I can write it to the database. So then I insert rows in the database, summing by the user ID, and write a balance. That's it. It was an image usage collector. For tokens, I have the similar logic. Once again, getting cursor from the database, list of executions, filtering the ones that contains agents, getting executions from them, and parsing usage. There is a difference in schema because for tokens, we need input tokens, output tokens. It will be different. So I'm using different table in the database for that. So the logic is the same, right? Then I can store it in the database. One important nuance as well, if step had multiple attempts, for example, the primary model failed and a fallback model was used, you need to sum the tokens across all attempts, right? Don't forget about it. So it's easier to miss that and undercount your real usage. For image, it's almost the same. Now let's see how it's stored. So here in the database, I got exact action that triggered. Now let's see how it's stored. Here I have a workflow name, a model that used a token, then number of input tokens, number of output tokens, workflow ID, and the total tokens. For media, it's different a little bit. So here as well, workflow ID, the provider, model, and I simply need a count because I'm paying for exact image, and I'm also having a quality here because it's a different price. So that's basically what I need to have. Let's take a look how it's organized in the database. So I organized the data into 3 types of tables, and that was intentional. So first, I call it fact tables. They contain no events, like the user at this time using this model consumed this much. So text usage goes into one table, and images and videos goes to another table. Slightly different because you're paying for count, not tokens here. So the thing is pricing tables stored separately. These contain costs, so costs per million tokens for a model, cost for image size, cost for quality level, as you can see. Right? Why to separate them? Because prices change, so providers increase or decrease pricing all the time. If pricing is embedded in the code or stored directly in the usage records, every pricing update becomes a nightmare. So with a dedicated pricing table, I simply update one row and everything recalculates automatically. And third one, reporting views. You don't need tables for that. You can simply create views. I created 2 for myself. One is the daily cost, where I have all my test users here with tokens spent and with dollars spent on different demands, tokens, images, videos, and total spent by days and total by users. That's the final outcome that I'm interested in actually. Here is the funny story, by the way. So for the validation, I uploaded the same logs which I got here to ChatGPT, right? And I asked, calculate me the cost for the user. The model, so it came back with a number almost twice as high. So I investigated. So it turned out the chatbot was using an outdated price for one of the models. It was Opus, because that model had become 3 times cheaper or something, but the chatbot didn't know that because it was stored in the memory or something. So my system calculated correctly because pricing lives in a table that I can keep updated, not in someone's memory. So that's exactly why pricing should be separated from the usage data. So as a summary, if you are building anything related to AI and you have any consumption in it, you might want, and you're using n8n, you might want to do something similar. In order to help, I've published a complete step-by-step guide showing exactly how to build the same system for any project. The link is below the video. There is no paywall or something. You can simply go to the Telegram. It's free. Just grab it from there. It's just a convenient way to store things. If this was useful, subscribe. I share behind the scenes of engineering decisions and show exactly how I'm building my own product. So thank you for your attention.